want to welcome everybody here. My name is Gallen David, and I'm a campaign representative for AFA, the Association of Flight Attendants-CWA. And I am here on behalf of the SkyWest Airlines Flight Attendants for AFA. We're going to have a great talk today. We want to speak with some other flight attendants that work for regional carriers that have also taken on roles within AFA representatives and also executive leadership at the international level, and also chairs for aviation, for air safety, health and security, and also working with grievances. So we've got a really great panel here. I want to let everybody introduce themselves. One of our guests today is Keturah Johnson also, who is the new International Vice President for the Association of Flight Attendants-CWA. So we're glad to have her here. Before we meet Katurah and hear some of the great things that she has to say, let Jan introduce herself from Envoy. Hi, Jan.
Hi, Gallen. My name is Jan Wyatt. I'm the Air Health, Safety and Security MEC at Envoy. I've been doing this for about 10 years. I work with Katiauna on our fatigue program, our CSAP program, our turbulence program, our employee injuries. There are any number of health and safety issues that we touch. And I've been so grateful that I'm able to work with AFA. There are just excellent people at all the carriers and at AFA International that provide a wealth of support and background information.
Thank you. Thank you, Jan. And Kat, why don't you just say a couple of words and introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Katiauna. I go by Kat. I am the newest MEC fatigue for Envoy. I have the pleasure of working with Jan, who I've learned a lot from. And I'm just excited to be on this call today to hear Katurah on today and help and answer any way I can from a regional side. Thank
you. And last but not least, we're so happy to meet Keturah Johnson. And Katurah, I'm not gonna waste any time. I just would love to hear from you and get started with our call.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, everyone. I'm very, very happy to be here with you. So as you were told, I was the newly elected International Vice President for the International Office of AFA. A little bit of background, I worked at Piedmont Airlines as MEC President, been flying for about 5 years. And I guess today is my 23rd day in office. I'm also the first queer woman of color to hold this position and a combat veteran. So yes.
Well, you know, it's great to hear so much that has changed and that's new at AFA right now. A lot of the flight attendants at SkyWest are so interested in learning some of the things that have happened recently at other AFA represented regional carriers. So share with us some of the things that have been going on at Piedmont, and then also at some of the other regional carriers that are represented by AFA.
Yes, absolutely. So at Piedmont, we got a 100% strike vote, which I would like to say is historic, never been done before. And we also just got a new contract. But a way that we work together with the regional carriers, Envoy and PSA, who are wholly owned under the American Airlines Group, is we just were able to get some really great benefits for flight attendants. So any flight attendant that's now coming in will start with 4-year pay. We were able to secure commuter rooms and just some overall quality of life. So that's something that we could talk about, building strength together in a wholly owned at regional carriers, and then something that Piedmont has been working on just internally.
Well, okay, so SkyWest Airlines, of course, we all know, is one of the largest regional carriers. And you know, they have a lot of good things. The way they do things, a lot of the flight attendants really like it. One of the things that you know, they want addressed with the union is not only besides improved pay and work rules and that sort of thing, but also protections. And one of the things that SkyWest Flight Attendants ask a lot is, so we like a lot about the way things are at SkyWest. How can becoming AFA members help us?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. And I'll just touch on a few things, and I'd like Kat and Jan to talk about things from a grievance perspective and also from safety as well. So regionals, we do a flying for the big companies, for the parent companies, and we're usually last to get information. And, think of American Airlines and Piedmont and the wholly owned. We fly the routes for them, and we get paid way less than them by doing the same job. So in working together with the union, there are protections gained through collective bargaining that are relative to each carrier. We can hold the company accountable to policies so that they can't just change or violate the policy at any time they want without recourse. And there's inconspicuous ways that the company is able to really recapture compensation in the absence of collective bargaining and union representation. So yeah, Kat or Jan, do you have anything you want to add on that?
The company has offered bonuses. There's the retention bonus, and there's the summer incentive bonus. However, the devil is always in the details. If we didn't have an effective fatigue program, if we didn't have effective safety programs, if we weren't able to monitor who gets, who's disqualified from those bonuses, from absences or employee injuries or all those kinds of things, the company could, theoretically, it sounds great on paper. And like I said, until you get down into the weeds and realize all of the people that they're going to disqualify. Summer, especially in the regional business, is very hard on flight attendants with turbulence, lots of turbulence injuries. Our Too Hot, Too Cold program is, this is prime season for these hot aircraft. And if you're out there working and you have a turbulence injury, then you don't qualify for your retention bonus or your summer incentive, or if you have heat stroke, and so you're not able to work because of those things that happen. We have effective committees that are willing to address those issues, that hold the company to making sure that our flight attendants are represented and treated fairly in these issues. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what you're saying is that a lot of times a flight attendant, with these policies, they may look good, yes, but people can get disqualified just for doing their job, and
Exactly.
Something happens. Yeah, and if they didn't have the representation to then step in and say, hey, wait a minute, this flight attendant needs to receive what was promised because being disqualified was not their fault.
Exactly.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. I know that there was a question, and Katurah, you might want to touch on that. I think you were ready.
Yes, I would love to touch on this. So yes, obviously the money is coming from American, but I will tell you, when I sat at the negotiating table for the past 4 years when we negotiated, and even during the pandemic, there is something that I was very adamant about, and that was getting commuter rooms. And every week I would send an email to our VP of Ops asking for commuter rooms. Every month, asking. The flight attendants need it. So although they are coming from American, the relationship with negotiations is that these are things that we've asked for prior, and they're coming to us, and usually when they're coming for us, they want a little something. So that's why there's a relationship there. But we negotiated and we signed the document, so it's not just something that they're throwing onto us. They wanted to work with us. And at first, of course, when they brought us information, we shot it down because we knew we could get more. So we made sure, it's the amount of commuter rooms, how they wanted to give out the commuter rooms was in a very specific way. So as a negotiating committee, we sat down and we read through what they offered, and we cut some things off, and it was a process. You give it back because there's always money and there's always wiggle room. And so it's building that relationship within the negotiating committee and also with the company. And I'll tell you, during our whole time in negotiations, watching the attrition, and I'm sure Envoy can attest to this as well, we told them, you have a problem. We said, if you do not get commuter rooms, if you do not get bonuses to flight attendants, people are going to leave, and it's what's happening. And they're leaving quickly, and they're going to other carriers as well. But the relationship is that you have to work with the company to finalize the agreement. So it's not just American giving us these things. We negotiated to get some better improvements as to what they first offered. You're welcome. And just one more thing. So AFA in general, there's staff negotiators, there's general counsel. So we all work together. And AFA International gives us a lot of support, you know, to push those items and to make sure that we could to get the deal fast.
Okay, great. You know, something that is so interesting about your background, Katurah, is that, you know, you were negotiating improvements at Piedmont during the worst possible, one of the worst possible times in the history of the world, you know, with the pandemic. So a lot of times everybody knows that during negotiations, management tries to drag their feet. How did you make it move at Piedmont and actually get improvements during the worst possible time?
We put a lot of pressure on the company. We mobilized the members. We were united. We said enough is enough. We had enough. And mobilizing the members is to be on the same page together and to understand what's going on wasn't right. And everyone had to step up and take action. So that's how we got our 100% strike vote. So if you're not familiar, AFA has a system called Chaos, which is creating havoc around our system. We have to vote to strike. And for the first time ever in history, a Piedmont, less than 500 flight attendants, every flight attendant that was eligible and casted their vote voted to strike if we were released. Yes, during the pandemic, it was very difficult, but we also have to be creative. So you have to find ways to retract money from them while you're doing negotiations, because, you know, the company cries that they're broke and they don't have any money, but then the next day they're giving all the money to the pilots. Right after we closed out a negotiating session and they turned down our compensation proposal, literally 5 minutes later, the pilots are announcing all this, the retention bonus. The other thing that we were able to secure was pandemic leave. All of the wholly owned were given pandemic leave except Piedmont. And I first reached out to the CEO at the time, and he said, well, what about the rampers? And what about this? I said, you know, I do care about them. I'm focused on the flight attendants right now. He said, no, we made a lot of noise, and we ended up not getting pandemic leave just for the flight attendants. We got it for the pilots, we got it for the ramp agents, we got it for the gate agents. And so we really gave it to them. But that's another way that we stand unified within the union to make sure that we were able to get those improvements. There's no reason why we shouldn't have been given pandemic leave and why we had to fight so hard to get it. So we put them on blast, and they got tired of us putting them on blast, and then they started to cave.
Once you have a union established, you've got to have that participation and that engagement.
You have to engage with the members. You have to find something, a commonality. All right. So something could be, hey, I cannot afford a hotel room to sleep for the night. And you'll find that many flight attendants are in the same boat. Oh, I'm a commuter and it's hard to commute. Something simple about kids' activities. Once you find that commonality between each other and you see that you are struggling with the same things, that's how you start. And then you build from that. And you understand, you know, that you love your jobs. It's difficult, and then you work together to make the changes. And it's really about engagement and making sure that people see what the vision is.
So at Piedmont, when you were, you know, taking a strike vote, how did you ensure that people understood that it was in their best interest to be together, to stand together, and you know, realize the value of the engagement and the solidarity?
It was a lot of communicating the process, because um, the process does take long. So it's really about educating the members on what the process is, and giving out information and engaging. We did a lot of crew sits. We did a lot of handouts. We did timelines. We did text blasts. We did picketing. We did a lot of picketing. We did picketing in Philadelphia. And then we had APFA come and join us. We had pilots come and join us. So it's really member engagement and also education. And I believe that's really what it was. And the flight attendants were sick and tired. They were fed up. They were fed up and fired up. I think I said that in one of my interviews. Yeah. And they spoke for themselves. That's what it was.
So, and you didn't just come up with the priorities of what was important. You actually, as a representative of your flight attendants, you were really carrying their voices, their desires forward, right?
Oh, absolutely. And, in the beginning of any type of negotiations, you do a survey, kind of like a climate check to see what's going on. During the pandemic, some of those issues shifted, obviously, to include more things. But it's really just having one-on-one conversations with flight attendants and genuinely getting to know them and understanding what their issues are. I have a phrase that I like to use: seeking to understand what's going on, and really being motivated and having a willingness to make change and include them. They want to feel a part of something. So when you include them and they see that the changes that are being made, that's important, and it feels good to them as well.
At Envoy, we have such a diversity in our membership. We have lots of new hires, and we're churning through them pretty rapidly. Then we have, some of our senior mamas that have been around here for a long, long time. The way they approach the union is very different. Most of our new hires, which are still on probation, are scared to death of the company and the union. So it's easier to reach them with the understanding that we can help them with contractual issues. And once they get past that probation, we can help them with other issues. The people that have been here long-term, and sometimes it's hard to get to the bottom of their concerns, why they feel like, they might not feel like the union has supported them in certain aspects of their career in the past. But I think with everybody, you have to meet them where they are. We have some people that are very active on social media. We can, sometimes you can reach people that way. We do Zoom calls. Sometimes you can reach people that way, just like this. Like I said, there are lots of different ways. We do crew room sits. Sometimes, you can find people that have a little bit of time, and if you're just available to sit and talk to them. But I think it's availability, and like I said, meeting people where they're at and listening to what their concerns are and listening to what their expectations are.
You're all standing up together from different airlines, but you have the same goal. And how important is this solidarity from airline to airline to lift the profession?
Well, just a quick, it's very important to stand in agreement. What Katurah has done for Piedmont, I don't know if she understands the magnitude of what she did for them just yet. And I want to congratulate her because it helped Envoy out and PSA with this new this summer bonus and this retention program. This was led because some of the things that she held out for and fought for, they had to meet us because they already had given it to Piedmont. So some of those things, I know she's talked about commuter hotels. We already had those things, but we didn't have the $4,500 incentive program that they already had gotten. So it was a collaboration of things that everybody had to make sure that we all had it. And that goes for all regionals. The better pay that one gets helps the other person out. It's not a competition. You need to get those other regionals on that level to be able to get to that level as well, for the companies to understand that you're not going to continue to grow and you need to understand your worth. And basically what Katurah has shown me, I don't know Katurah, but I've heard of her resume and the things that she's done. And I'm so excited because representation matters, but it shows that if we just know our worth and fight for it, we can get it. And it doesn't seem like it was a negative situation in her perspective. It was, she just kept on. You have to be relentless to get things done. And backtracking on the flight attendants that are not union, we have those in every company. Somebody has those people that, oh, I don't need the union for anything, but until they do. You meet them where they are, but you also have those people that work to talk to them that were at that same level to make them understand that I too was there, but now I see what they can do. So it's a little tricky, and you have to utilize those strong, voiceful people and those people that were on the fence. They all work together. So it's definitely a collaboration, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Kat. And if I could say thank you for those kind words, I really appreciate it. The other thing too is, and I know you mentioned something about those people who don't want to get involved. Okay, you have to respect. You read the room, right? You know who's not interested in the union every time we come to the crew room and they're running away or something like that. But you also continue to speak with them and reach out to them. And I'll be surprised, the people that showed up on the picket lines were people, you know, who you didn't think were very interested in the union, or who might have not needed the union, but they understood collectively what the goal and the vision was for the flight attendants, that they wanted to come and stand in solidarity. And the other point about the 3 wholly owns, I know that I talk with Lee from PSA and Robert almost every single day. And with this last incentive and enhancements we got, we made sure as soon as we got the call, we were in a group chat texting each other, seeing what everyone else got. And we made it a point that we were not going to undermine each other, and that we weren't going to stop until we got the same. Some things, you know, like you guys already had commuter rooms for Envoy, PSA didn't have commuter rooms. And so it was just working together to make sure that we didn't leave anyone behind. And like Jan and Kat said, you have to build everyone up. It's not a competition, but we need to make sure that, you know, that we're working together and we're standing together in solidarity.
That is so great. I think that you said a lot of things there, all of you. When it gets to the flight attendants standing together from airline to airline to airline and looking out for each other, supporting each other, and lifting each other up, that is such a powerful thing. And then when you mention that even the people that may seem like, oh, they're never gonna, you know, join with everybody to make this stuff happen, that sometimes those people just magically have an epiphany and realize, oh my gosh, and then they become some of your strongest people. So you really can't just count people out. That's so valuable.
And one quick thing too, a lot of times there's different structure changes in the union. And so it's about maybe the union before had left a bad taste in their mouth, you know what I mean? And it's about starting fresh and really reaching out and seeing what's going on, you know, with flight attendants, and understanding what issues they did have with the union and see how we can do better and service them.
Yes, you're absolutely right. With the new bonus structure, I'm sure you know all about that with the wholly owns. We had a lot of flight attendants, senior people that felt like they were just thrown away. Everybody got bonuses but them. And I listened to I watched the Facebook post, and I reached out to a few of the senior people that just was very adamant that how the union didn't do this, that, the other. And I would message them saying, if you want to talk, please reach out and I'm free to talk to you to explain some things. And it really helped, because sometimes it's just the information is not there. And a lot of the senior flight attendants, they're stuck in their ways and they don't understand what's going on. But just to listen and then educate them, it just really came full circle. We have so many messages, Jan can attest to, where they came back and said, after listening to the Zoom calls, after talking to different reps, I get what happened in this situation and why we didn't get the extra money that the new hires got and that the pilots got. But it was just them knowing that AFA was still working for them. This was not the victory we were looking for, but it was something forward. So now we have that to add on to. So it's a lot of that is sometimes you're going to have to just listen to their concerns, and you may not be able to fix them, but if you're a straight shooter and you're honest with them, they will support you, because everybody has differences. So it's not AFA, any union is just not perfect, but you having that communication. And what I would advise SkyWest, make sure who you vote in, make sure they're ready to have that communication, because communication is key.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kat. And there were some senior flight attendants who were upset, and we in Piedmont had a Zoom also explaining what's going on. And this is what I told people. I said, I'm not going to take something off of the table and not take improvements, but what we can do is build upon those improvements. So we're going to take it and we're going to continue to fight like hell to get more improvements. You know what I mean? Helping out the new hires coming in at that starting rate only is going to improve what the senior flight attendants get, because we've raised the standard. So
when you have people that, you know, are not happy about something, how do you encourage? I mean, what is your answer to them when they're complaining? Do you say get involved? Do you say
absolutely get involved? Yeah. Absolutely. Number one thing, get involved. If you don't like something, help create that change. And then they'll, you know, excuses come up, but you know, soon, like before, people who see the change that is being done by other leaders and unions working together, then they get in and they, you know, they start to make waves. And it's hard and it can be overwhelming at first, but the victories that we're able to achieve independently in our carriers and all together, it's incredible. And when people start to see that and they see the power of the union and they get involved, there's nothing like.
And don't you feel like now is the best time ever for establishing a union at a carrier that's not had union representation before? I mean, with the climate, you see the labor movement is just picked up so much momentum. So how do you feel about the future?
I feel great about the future. I think there's no time than right now. You see Amazon, you see Starbucks. I was just in labor notes last week, and the energy down there was incredible. And people are understanding the power that we do have, and the power we have together, and that there is strength in numbers, and that the company should be very afraid right now. The corporate CEOs, they should be very afraid.
You know, my friend Steve Eckerberg, he's a great labor organizer. You guys know him. You know, he just said your union, your airline union is like a gym membership. Once you start showing up, you learn how strong you are and how much stronger you can get. It really is like that. Once you start getting involved and you see the change that can happen when you step up and you get involved and you know, join with it with your coworkers to push for change, it's amazing. I mean, hearing what you guys were able to do by, you know, standing together and looking out for each other, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, it really does. And with these incentives for the wholly owned and, you know, different airlines getting small victories and working together and really bouncing ideas off of each other and getting creative and standing in solidarity, whether it be pickets or sharing. You know, we share a lot of information. I had another carrier ask me for our incentives, and I sent them because that's what we should be doing. We should be building each other up and not leaving anyone behind. I definitely want to continue working, you know, with the wholly owned and other regionals. I'm actually in new leader orientation this week, and it's incredible to see all of the different leaders who are willing to step up and how we could really utilize each other and the resources that we have to create more power. Quick thing, I do want to emphasize and give a shout out to APFA, because I've built a relationship now with their president, and it's incredible the things like she's able to share on her platform for us. So we have American Airlines supporting wholly owned flight attendants, you know, sending out information, you know, about pandemic leave. You know, we got that going and they were signing it. So we make noise at our level, and having that relationship with APFA and taking it to their level, a lot of changes are going to be made. So that's what's really exciting.
Yeah, I know. It's and that's the whole thing. If I haven't, I think that I hope people are getting it that listen to this call, that the power of flight attendants from all different airlines standing together is so incredible, and it will move mountains. Does anyone have any opinions? I mean, this, like for instance, SkyWest's campaign is gaining momentum. Delta's is on fire right now. How do you feel about a future where almost all flight attendants are represented, mostly by AFA, which is fabulous, but that flight attendants are represented by unions?
I believe that it's imperative, and we have to get this going because they need representation. As we said, AFA-CWA, we are stronger together, better together, and that's absolutely true. And no carriers or flight attendants should be left behind. They shouldn't have to worry about where they're going to sleep before working for a trip, how they're going to eat, how they're going to pay their bills, and just protections against the company. Yes, so it's imperative
that is so important. Before we wrap up the call, I think that's a great direction to go in really quickly, is how important that contract is and how important the grievance process is. Some of the things that come with union representation. Can someone speak to how the contract is depended on and enforced on a regular basis?
I would love for Katurah to have all of the responses because that's why I'm here selfishly. But
no, please take it away. Talk about grievances. No. Yes, no, take it away.
But what I want people to understand from the regional side, we're not mainline, so we don't get that pay, but that doesn't mean we don't deserve to be up there. The contract serves you as a quality of life. What mainline has is reserved for 30 years, off and on. What a regional has is reserved for probably 6 months. So do understand that the quality of life is better. Understand that the contract gets us those 10 hours rest. Even though it's not pushed into bill yet, we still can request those things because we have a contract. You have a contract that says if you're fatigued, you call off and you get 10 hours rest uninterrupted. You might have those things written, your managers to say if it's approved. We also have where if you get in trouble for something that you didn't do, that you have to have grievance and you have to have representation to be able to prove that you should be terminated. What you have now is not that case. And not to say anything bad, I just want you to know that quality of life to me is worth more than money can ever buy, because quality of life is a peace of mind. And I know as regionals, we always want to get this high pay. I want it, I deserve it, but I also deserve to be able to use my off time to go somewhere and have a quality of life. So just know that a union, especially AFA, will fight for you to make sure that those work things are done. Those work rules they're going to have to abide by that with no retaliation. So you right now, you're working under those pretenses that if you say something is a retaliation. With the union, there's no retaliation. There's steps to being terminated, and they just can't do that to you, whereas they can do that now. And I'm sure Jan has the experience. She's my mentor, so she can take it away from there.
In terms of the health, safety, and security, which is sort of my lane on these things, and I work in this area because it is so incredibly important. The work we do can be quite challenging, and at times it's dangerous. You need to have a strong union that's supporting good, solid health, safety, and security. And we do that by working together with the other unions. But there's something like 100,000, a little over 100,000 flight attendants working in this country. We're incredibly lucky to have this job. And like I said, it doesn't come without risk. And it doesn't come without us being properly trained to deal with those risks. Training is a huge issue in health and safety. And it's a huge issue for AFA. The fatigue program is huge. I don't know what the situation is at your carrier, but our poor new hires are just getting beaten up with flying. Their first month they might have 85 hours flying, and they are fatigued. It's exhausting. And like I said, especially in the summertime when we're dealing with heat and thunderstorms and all of those things. So you said you want to be able to go home to your family when this is over, and you want to be okay when you get there. We've dealt with all of these unruly passengers, and it just annoys me to call them unruly because these are criminal activities lots of times that are happening. Our flight attendants are being assaulted. Who's backing you up with that? Who can you count on to be in your corner when the company is calling you in because they got an ugly letter or somebody was mad at you for something? Who's backing you up? Those things all matter. They all matter, and it takes a union, and it takes a lot of people behind the scenes to make all of those happen. And like you said earlier, a lot of people want to complain about the union, but they don't really want to get their hands dirty and do the work. But the union isn't somebody else. The union is all of us.
You're absolutely right. And the meal breaks, she wanted me to touch on meal breaks. The AFA has done the meal break. So you don't have to work 5 legs without getting a meal. You can get a reasonable meal break, and they can delay the flight for your meal break, because if you don't have the time allowed you need food, you need hydration to be able to work. These things are all things that we push for in AFA, and we make the company abide by so that you're not the one suffering. You shouldn't suffer for going to work and doing your job. You should be able to eat. You should be able to hydrate yourself. Those are small things, but they matter because they make sure that you can do those 4-day trips.
No, absolutely. And just to touch on what Jan and Kat said, absolutely. It's to protect the contract. Once a contract is in place, it's to protect you from the company, because the company's going to try it. I'm sure you see it now, but they're going to try it every day. They're going to try it multiple times a day. And until you get got, and all it takes is one time. And then you'll be calling the union, for support. But the company will try it. They'll try it all the time. So it's educating on your contract to make sure that that you don't fall victim to what they're trying to do.
Yes, because a contract is a contract. Policy can be changed at management's discretion. So that's all very important. Well, we are going to wrap it up in a second. Is there anything else that you guys would like to discuss before we wrap up our call?
No, just thank you. Thank you to Jan and Kat, and for you, and to all the SkyWest flight attendants. So we hope to see you soon, and in solidarity.
Just the time is now. The time is now to make sure you're protected.
Well, thanks for letting me talk a little bit today. I appreciate it. Thank you. And thanks to all of you for your input. I know sometimes people have the idea that, if you're doing the union, you're doing it because you don't want to work and you're getting paid. Well, we know that's not true. It's because you care about people and you're dedicated and you want to make your profession safe. So thanks for all your good work.
But thank you, Jan. Thank you, Kat. And thank you, Katurah, for taking the time to be on the call. And I know that our SkyWest flight attendants appreciate it.